Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one.
Elfego Baca was a young Mexican-American who became famous in 1884 after facing about 80 Texas cowboys in Frisco, now Reserve, New Mexico. As a hostile group pressured the small town and frightened residents, Baca took shelter alone inside an adobe house and resisted for 33 straight hours under intense tension. His courage and endurance became an Old West legend, highlighting ethnic and social conflicts between Latinos and settlers in that troubled region. He became a symbol of bravery and justice by standing against abuse and intimidation in a place marked by cowboy dominance and weak local authority. His story revealed the major challenges faced by minorities in disputed territories and the lasting impact of figures who refused to surrender to inequality and pressure. The phenomenon known as the Red Ghost frightened Arizona in the late 19th century, creating fear and fascination among local residents. After the end of the Camel Corps, the American military unit that used imported camels to carry supplies through the desert, reports emerged of a giant red camel wandering the region with a skeleton tied to its back. This mysterious animal became a legend because of its ghostly appearance and the strange remains it carried. In 1893, the Red Ghost was finally brought down, and investigations confirmed part of the story. Pieces of rope and bones were found attached to the animal. The episode reflects not only the unusual adaptation of camels to American territory, but also the frightening stories created by the Western frontier, where fact and superstition often mixed. Bass Reeves was one of the first and most iconic African-American lawmen in the United States, serving as a marshal in Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, starting in 1875. Over 32 years, Reeves arrested more than 3,000 people wanted by the law, building a reputation for smart strategies, including elaborate disguises used to locate difficult suspects. Despite the constant danger of the profession, he survived many risky situations unharmed, although his hat and belt were struck in some episodes. His career challenged the racial barriers of the post-Civil War era, a time marked by deep segregation and discrimination against African Americans. His life is believed to have inspired the fictional Lone Ranger, a symbol of firm justice in the Old West. Reeves stood out for courage, integrity, and exceptional skill in a context of strong prejudice. In the 19th century, American saloons were essential meeting places, but the liquor served there was almost never genuine. Known as rotgut, this cheap and poor quality mixture could combine simple distilled alcohol with unsuitable substances used to change the flavor, color, and burning sensation. To intensify the effect, some producers added improper and questionable ingredients, increasing the problems linked to consumption. This practice reflected the sanitary and regulatory challenges of the era, when control over the production and sale of these drinks was nearly non-existent. Many people who visited these saloons were exposed to health risks that were poorly understood, worsening problems tied to excessive drinking and low-quality products. The rotgut phenomenon reveals the harsh conditions of social and economic life during the American frontier. In 1856, during the territorial expansion of the United States, the government imported about 70 camels from the Middle East for military use in the desert regions of the Southwest. The project, called the United States Camel Corps, was proposed by Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, who wanted transportation that could endure the dry climate. The camels adapted well, traveled long distances with little water, and carried heavy loads better than horses and mules. However, soldiers disliked their strong smell and difficult temperament, which created resistance. Limited experience handling them also contributed to the project's decline. It ended after the Civil War, leaving a curious and little-known chapter in American military history. Many camels were released into the wild, where some reportedly survived in the desert for years. Roy Bean, known as the Law west of the Pecos, was a singular figure of the 19th century American West, famous for his peculiar way of administering justice. Based in Langtree, Texas, where he held court inside the Jersey Lily Saloon, he combined the roles of judge and bar owner, a mix remembered for both humor and practicality. His fame grew after he found a man who had already lost his life $40 for a weapons-related offense, keeping the money himself and illustrating the unorthodox style of his decisions. Bean attracted attention by declaring himself the highest legal authority in an isolated region, dealing with accused people and visitors with firmness and cunning. Despite his questionable methods, he became a symbol of informal frontier justice. With the expansion of the telegraph in the 19th century, especially in the American West, a new form of crime emerged known as wire fraud. Swindlers began using the technology to send false messages about horse race results, sporting events, and non-existent business deals, deceiving people in distant places and demanding payment based on fake information. In 1872, a group in San Francisco became known for operating a sophisticated scheme involving the deliberate delay of race results, giving criminals an unfair advantage. This phenomenon marked the beginning of long-distance scams, revealing the security challenges brought by modernization. The impact of these frauds led to improved control systems and specific laws to fight such crimes, anticipating concerns that still exist today with emerging technologies. In December 1916, in the remote village of Jarbidge, Nevada, Ben Cool and his accomplices committed the last major known stagecoach mail robbery, marking the end of that era in the American Old West. This serious episode, which resulted in the loss of the stagecoach driver, happened while World War I was mobilizing the world, showing a contrast between emerging modernity and the last traces of the frontier past. Cool's identification and conviction were innovative for the time because they used one of the first legal applications of palm print evidence, opening a new era in police methods. This episode symbolizes the transition from traditional justice to technological advances that would shape 20th century security, while also representing the end of a historical cycle in frontier regions. Sitting Bull, leader of the Lakota people, became famous after his victory over Lieutenant Colonel George Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876, an important milestone in indigenous resistance against American expansion in the West. In 1885, he joined Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show, earning $50 per week, a considerable amount at the time. He also sold autographs and photographs, using the money to help poor people in the cities he visited during the tour. His participation lasted only one season because his indigenous values conflicted with the way native culture was turned into spectacle and commercial entertainment. This episode shows the challenges faced by indigenous leaders under pressure to fit into 19th century popular entertainment, which often distorted their history and values. Susanna Medora Salter entered history in 1887 by becoming the first woman elected mayor in the United States in the town of Argonia, Kansas. Her name was placed on the ballot by a group of men who wanted to mock the suffrage movement, believing she would easily lose the election. Unaware of her candidacy, Salter only learned she was running on Election Day. Against all expectations and the prejudice of the time, she won and led the local government, showing women's strength and determination in politics even before they gained full voting rights. Her election became a significant milestone in the 19th century struggle for gender equality, inspiring other women to break barriers and question restrictive social norms. In 1869, the Wyoming Territory made civil rights history by becoming the first region in the United States to grant women the right to vote, more than 50 years before the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920. This pioneering decision came not only from progressive ideals, but also from a demographic strategy, since Wyoming had a major imbalance between men and women, with 6 men for every woman. Women's suffrage was used as a way to attract more women and encourage local population growth, reflecting the unique challenges of American frontier regions in the 19th century. This opening affected politics and society by signaling a gradual change in women's roles, anticipating national debates that would continue for decades. Wyoming, later called the Equality State, showed how suffrage could connect with practical and social interests. The invention of barbed wire by Joseph Glidden in 1874 radically transformed the American West. Before it, the vast open prairies and the lack of trees made fencing land difficult, strengthening the nomadic lifestyle of cowboys and the open range system. With the arrival of barbed wire, it became possible to mark property lines and control cattle, creating deep social and economic changes across the region. This innovation sparked violent conflicts known as the fence-cutting wars, especially in Texas during the 1880s, when ranchers and cowboys fought over access to land. The end of open space symbolized the decline of the traditional free cowboy lifestyle, imposing a property-based model that shaped the future development of the West and marked a turning point in frontier history. The first major train robbery recorded in the United States took place in October 1866 in Jackson County, Indiana, when the Reno brothers John, Frank, Simeon, and William stole more than $10,000 from an Adams Express Company safe. This act marked the beginning of a new phase of railroad crime in the American West, at a time when train transportation was expanding rapidly and becoming vital for trade and communication. Although the Reno brothers had started as simple farmers, they took advantage of weak security inside train cars to carry out the plan, which was widely reported by the press. The episode made them notorious and inspired other groups to copy the method, creating a wave of similar actions that became part of Old West conflicts and culture. The plant known as tumbleweed, famous for appearing in Western films, is not actually native to North America. Originally from Russia, the species Salsola tragus reached the United States around 1870, probably through contaminated flaxseed brought to South Dakota. Within a few decades, this invasive plant spread quickly across the American West, changing desert landscapes that had not previously featured this rolling vegetation. Tumbleweed became a cultural icon associated with dry and lonely Old West deserts, despite its relatively recent arrival. Its spread is a classic example of botanical globalization, altering ecosystems and local symbols in a region going through major environmental and economic change in the 19th century. Today, it is part of the visual identity of the American West, even though its origins are far away. Ah Kwong was one of the Chinese immigrants who challenged Old West stereotypes by becoming a cowboy and ranch worker, mainly in Oregon, Idaho, and Montana during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Unlike the common image that links Chinese immigrants only to railroad construction, he and many others dedicated their lives to hard work in the countryside, breaking horses and caring for cattle. Ah Kwong spent several decades working on ranches, earning respect and trust through skill and strong work ethic. This phenomenon reveals the diversity and complexity of Chinese immigration in America, marked by perseverance and integration into sectors rarely associated with that community. His legacy is not just a marginal chapter, but a meaningful part of Western history that reshapes the Asian presence in American lands. Before immigration restrictions against Asians in the early 20th century, Japanese immigrants settled as farmers and rural workers in the western United States, especially in California, Oregon, and Texas. Within these communities, some Japanese immigrants joined local culture in an unusual way by becoming cowboys, a tradition usually associated with native-born Americans of the region. In El Paso, Texas, there was a significant Japanese community from the 1880s where immigrants looked for opportunities in agriculture and ranching. These Nikkei cowboys challenged prejudice and social barriers, adapting to the hard life of the American frontier while preserving their cultural roots. This little-known history reveals the complexity of racial and cultural relations in the American West and the Japanese contribution to rural development. In the American Old West, the cowboy became famous for drinking whiskey, but in reality, coffee was the dominant and essential drink in the daily lives of these workers. During long cattle drives across western trails, cowboys could drink up to about 1.5 liters of coffee per day, giving them energy and endurance in the harsh conditions of plains and deserts. Coffee had such strong social and symbolic importance that, in many camps, knocking over the coffee pot from the chuck wagon, the wagon that carried food and utensils, was considered a serious offense against the whole group. The camp cook responsible for preparing the coffee was a central figure because his role went beyond food, helping maintain morale and unity during long and difficult journeys. This habit reflects the hard life and collective spirit that marked that era and region. In Old West saloons, free lunch was a business strategy that offered a meal at no cost to anyone who bought at least one drink, usually beer or whiskey. Common in the 19th century, this tactic attracted and kept customers in rough, noisy places used by workers and travelers. The food often included salted meat, cheese, bread, and pickles, all salty enough to increase thirst and encourage more drinking. This custom reflected an economic and social side of the era, when competition between establishments was intense and regulation was limited. Although it seemed generous, the offer was a clever way to increase profit, showing how the Western market used practical commercial tricks. The practice reveals social and business interactions shaped by a drinking culture that influenced frontier towns. For much of the 19th century, the bowler hat was one of the most common accessories among cowboys and men of the American West, unlike the popular image that connects them mainly to the classic cowboy hat. This model stood out because it resisted wind, giving riders more security during long journeys. The iconic Stetson, now a symbol of cowboys, only became widely popular in the late 19th century, changing the visual tradition. Figures such as Billy the Kid were photographed wearing bowler hats, showing how Western imagery shifted over time. This change in clothing reflects practical adaptation to weather and daily needs, along with fashion influences that became established later. It also shows how cultural images are reshaped by function and marketing, changing the way we imagine the past. Tombstone, Arizona, known for its past tied to gunfighters and famous Old West confrontations, also reveals surprisingly advanced infrastructure for its time. Its running water system was installed in 1881, carrying water almost 25 miles from the Huachuca Mountains. This innovation placed the town ahead of many communities in the eastern United States, where people still depended on wells and public sources for water. The system showed how important water was for the growth and survival of communities in dry regions, while also allowing Tombstone's urban and commercial development during its peak in the late 19th century. The project became a milestone in the modernization of the American West, showing how technology shaped even the most challenging environments. Even today, this infrastructure reflects efforts to balance development with desert conditions. The first officially organized rodeo took place in Pecos, Texas, on July 4, 1883, marking the beginning of a tradition that would spread throughout the American West. At this pioneering event, cowboys from different ranches competed in roping and riding contests, showing skills that were crucial to everyday ranch life. The $40 prize, roughly equal to an average monthly wage at the time, symbolized not only competition, but also the value placed on cowboy work within a developing culture. This rodeo formalized a practice already common in camps, turning it into a public spectacle and an element of Texas and American identity. The popularization of the sport helped build myths and celebrate the Western lifestyle, influencing culture and entertainment for decades. Life for cowboys in the American Old West was marked by intense challenges from a young age, with most of them between 16 and 25 years old, while driving large herds along cattle trails. These young men faced exhausting journeys and serious risks, both because of the harsh work and the low pay, usually around $25 to $40 per month. Their routine included long hours on horseback, exposure to harsh weather, and constant threats from wild animals, conflicts, and theft. Famous routes such as the Chisholm Trail became known for being worked by these brave teenagers, who played an essential role in the expansion of the cattle industry in the 19th century. They not only handled cattle, but also helped build the cowboy myth as a symbol of endurance and freedom in American culture. On the American plains of the 19th century, cattle drives symbolized expansion and work in the Old West. During these journeys, cowboys faced the challenge of keeping herds under control, especially at night, when darkness could lead to escapes and accidents. To prevent stampedes, sudden events that caused panic among cattle, cowboys sang softly while riding in shifts around the animals. These slow and repetitive songs created a calming effect, soothing the cattle and preventing sudden reactions. The practice showed the creativity and sensitivity of rural workers, as well as their skill in handling the dangers of Western life. Singing became an essential form of communication and care for survival on the journeys that shaped the culture of the American interior. During the frantic period of the gold rush in the American West, many temporary settlements known as boom towns appeared, defined by rapid growth and decline. Barbed in California is a strong example of this phenomenon, reaching about 10,000 residents in 1879 after gold was discovered, then quickly declining and becoming a ghost town in less than 2 decades. This short cycle of prosperity repeated often, with communities appearing almost from nothing, attracting miners and merchants, then disappearing in months or even weeks once mineral resources ran out. Instability was intense, reflecting the desire for immediate wealth and the harsh conditions of the frontier, where lack of infrastructure and weak laws made these towns economic and social mirages. In the American Old West, everyday risks often appeared in unexpected ways, and horse accidents were among the main causes of serious losses, surpassing the famous duels that dominate popular imagination. Riding, sudden falls, kicks, and other incidents involving horses were common and often severe, reflecting the hard and dangerous reality of 19th century life. While armed confrontations fed legends and films, records from the time suggest that handling animal transportation was a constant threat to settlers and pioneers. Other problems, including drownings and severe diseases, such as cholera and dysentery, also increased the vulnerability of the population, showing human fragility in a world with limited infrastructure and health services. These hardships create a more accurate and less romantic view of daily survival in that era.
If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.